Could you tell us a little bit, starting with what problems Nimlok was encountering that led you all to reach out to us?
A lot of what we described was just our complete and total lack of coordination across departments, across people. We had sort of developed with some departments a very us versus them mentality. A lot of cover your own butt. Don't worry about doing what's right. Just do what's written down because it's their problem if it's wrong. That kind of a thing. Not a lot of accountability. And it was just a perfect storm of terror here. It was just nothing went well. It was nothing but reprints, redos, doing everything multiple times, a whole lot of overtime to do that, and then all the jobs that got pushed because you were redoing things 2 and 3 times, all those jobs were being late, and then there was a lot of haste and a lot of mistakes. So then you're redoing those jobs, and we were just in this snowball where I was sitting there thinking, we're actually getting worse, and now we're talking about getting some big clients in here when we can't even take care of the ones that we have. Everything was we were calling them and they were late, or we weren't even calling them to tell them it was late, and they would just show up and it's not ready, or we have people not showing up for installations, and we just looked really, really, really not good at what we do. I kept saying we're broken and we're spiraling and we're getting worse, and I was looking at it as we fumble a few more and some of our key clients that we already have, and we lose some of those big clients, and more than half of us aren't going to be working here anymore. So I was already at a point where I was weighing out my exit strategy. That's what I was doing. I was trying to figure out what can I do to get out of here, because I don't think they will ever fix the problems that they have. And that was where I was completely bottomed out, total sense of hopelessness, and there was just a lot of lack of wanting to deal with things that were just tough things to deal with. And so I just kind of reached a point where I said, that's it. I just think this is something that just isn't fixable.
So you came into the process discouraged,
Yes.
basically hopeless.
Yes.
So tell us a little of your experience through the whole process.
So my concern is that as we went into this process, I guess once we got involved with you, and they kind of told us, we're going to have this person who's going to come in, and we're going to do some retreats, and we're going to get rid of the politics in the business. And I'm thinking that would be marvelous. I just don't think it's possible. So yes, when I sat down in my initial meeting with you, I came in not to be rude about it or anything, was totally willing to hear what you had to say, but when I walked in the door, my skepticism was just way up there, and so that was my mentality coming into that meeting. So
Did it stay?
no, and the thing is that all along, I always was of the belief that one of our biggest problems was people just not directly dealing with each other in a constructive way to solve problems. It was always talking about that person when they're not there and talk about what they're doing wrong, and it was just people going to this person, going to this person, going to this person. And all along I was just like, if people would just deal with it directly, one-on-one, we wouldn't have a lot of this stuff. And I think what I really wanted to see was some way for the owners to recognize where they were part of the problem. I think what I came out of that initial meeting feeling like was, okay, well, if this is something that is going to get people to communicate directly and not make it so personal and more about processes and things like that and fixing those constructively and collectively, then I was thinking, this, if everybody does this will work great. Then I thought, okay, this is hope inspiring. This is making me think this, we'll go to this retreat and I'm feeling good about this retreat.
So after the retreat, what did things look like?
What we did was we came back and we started practicing what we had learned over the weekend. And in doing so, we really immediately saw some more loud, boisterous personalities sort of take heed that there was sort of a new approach to everything. I think that the decrease in triangulation and discontent across people and departments has been staggeringly, I mean, just blow your mind improved. And I think between what we did, between the retreat and when we actually sort of brought the rest of the people into what we were doing, I think that got everybody on the same page, and I think with rare exception, and almost any time somebody blows it on one of the kind of central, ground rules that we would follow, the thing that's really neat is that if people aren't catching it right away, that they've like, oh wait, hang on, let me rethink how I'm going to say that, phrase that, whatever, because of how we define what sort of is following the rules and what isn't following the rules, it's very easy to call someone out when they're not following those rules without it really being personal. And it's that self-awareness that's what I really thought was impossible. I really thought that was impossible. And it's pretty wild now watching how every little meeting that we have or interaction that we have, there's this way higher level of universal respect for one another, even if we don't always have the same exact opinion of what we think the solution is. But the way that we're sort of working our way through a lot of those, differences of opinion, or I'm kind of thinking this is the way we should do that, but it's just so much more peaceful. That's a big word, peaceful. Things seem a lot more peaceful here.
Has it had financial or client satisfaction impact?
You would think that would be something, in the short term that would be hard to quantify. Not only have we improved our achieving of deadlines, we've also been looking at the numbers, the waste numbers over the last 2 months. And they went from just hit you in the gut, terrible numbers when we started. And literally, I just got an email from the guy that does all this calculating, who's out of town, but he had sent an email out before he left town and said, our numbers for this week show that we had 0 this last week. And we have to look at a couple things, and there might be a few things that we have to tack onto that week because we don't get billing for a particular shipping item or something for the next week, but it's still mind-blowing. And yeah, I was blown away because we've already been having our weekly meetings and talking about waste reduction and all that. It was our big goal, and we're seeing it. I mean, we're seeing the numbers come down, and I think that, the owners are ecstatic about that. We're all ecstatic about it. And probably the people that aren't having to work as long hours to get it all done because they're not having to do it twice, I think they're probably pretty happy about it as well. So,
Does this mean you all are now ready for growth?
I think we are all much more confident that we can do it now. And I think we've got a much better system of how we interact with each other and solve problems in meetings to solve anything that winds up being thrown at us as we move into the next phase of trying to boost business, because now we really have the ability to interact with each other in the right way and get the things that prior were just sort of problems ignored. We get them addressed and we get them solved and we move on to the next one, and we're just much more effective at how we plan and initiate things and execute the stuff that we're doing. And I'm pretty sure that if you asked anybody here, even people that were really, really, really doldrums about everything prior to all this, I think everyone would say that they've seen improvement in waste reduction and improved productivity and accountability and communication. I mean, those are all key things. And they all seem to be humming really well right now.
You're no longer disengaged.
No, no. In fact, I was so excited after the retreat because in seeing everything laid out, this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it, I so much knew that if everybody does this, this is the fix. This will actually fix the stuff that was problematic up until now. Even things that didn't even seem like they were super related to each other. This particular problem, which if you trace its causes and things back, you realize that it's actually part of this problem right here. And so I came back from the retreat completely guns blazing, ready to go. Let's do this. And I think going back to the cheerleader thing, I think because so many people had seen that I had kind of checked out, I think when they knew what my mental state was prior to the process and knew how much I just said, you know what, I'm done. And then I came back and was fighting for it all again and energized about it. I think other people thought, okay, this might be something that we should take seriously. It's made people realize that they are all part of either the problem or solution, depending on what they choose to be. And I think it's helped align people towards this sort of common goal at the end, this what we're reaching for, which is fixing all these things that were problematic and knocking everybody's morale down. And so I think what I see really is people being hopeful again. And that, you know, again, had come to a dark time prior to going through this process. You know, it really has become such a core part of how we make so many decisions that it's kind of hard to, you know, in any given day, there's probably a few major things that happen that probably follow the course of what we trained on, and then there's probably a gazillion smaller scale things. And the way that we're approaching them is different than we would have before. Mm-hmm. And so, but I think the key to that is that even though a lot of this, you know, initially might have felt uncomfortable to people to be so, you know, open, honest, vulnerable in these meetings, it's actually done exactly what I hoped it would do, which is it's made us a more cohesive, tight, loyal group of people to each other to making these decisions to keep the company moving the direction it needs to go to.
Kudos to you.
Yeah, well, thanks.
All right.
I can't thank you enough.